Welcome to the Lean Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Allan Dib. Today I've got a very special guest. He's the brains behind so many different authors who've actually done that. He helps people publish books. He helps people market books, get them out there, really monetize it. He's the founder of the Self-Publishing School. Welcome, Chandler Bolt. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
I'd love to know a little bit about you and your background. How did you get into book publishing? Who you are, who you serve, and yeah.
We've helped a few thousand people publish their book. And fell in love with books. And I believe that books change lives. I believe that books scale companies. I've seen it work for me. And my business have scaled from 0 to 70 million in the last decade or so, largely through books. We practice what we preach. And that helped me get on Forbes 30 under 30, helped the company grow fast. And it's just been a wild ride. Still loving it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a testament to that. I mean, the book really drives our business forward. And I think one of the reasons that books are so special as a piece of content, I think about this a lot. Books are just so durable. They last forever. What are your thoughts? Like, why is it so important for someone to write a book? What is it about it that for you is so compelling?
Yeah, I think it's what you just said. It's timeless. So it lives well beyond you, but it's also leverage. I think for
Mm,
so many people in your business, books give you leverage that
yeah,
you do work once, you create this book, goes on to impact thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even millions of people. And so, like you with the one page marketing plan, right? You did that work once, you created
yeah,
that book that has sold a million copies. A
yeah,
million people have had your book in their hands
yeah,
and then said, "Hey, I want to go further with you." And so
yeah.
it is the way to bring leverage to the impact that you're trying to make, the income that you're trying to grow, and the business that you're trying to grow.
I'm going to share with you how the book generates a lot of leads for us. So the book, basically, it's super simple. I created a framework, and I think part of a thought leadership book, I think the framework is really the cornerstone because the framework becomes kind of the chapters of the book. It becomes the modules of the course. It becomes the parts of the coaching program. So to me, that's kind of foundational. And then people opt in for additional resources. In my case, they want to download the one page marketing plan canvas. And so they put their email address in. And then we have a conversation with someone from our team, might reach out to them and so on. And so that just creates that flywheel. When they opt in and when they hear from someone in my team, it's never like, who are you and what are you about, right? Well, it's like they know who you are. They're pre-interested, pre-motivated. They've spent hours with your content already. And it's a very different conversation than if you had cold called someone or someone had just clicked on an ad, on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. There'd be this rapport that you need to build, this nurturing that you need to build. So for me, I found that super, super powerful. What are the things that people kind of drive revenue from a nonfiction book?
Yeah, I love the model that you're doing, Alan. I think it's super smart. It ties directly into the business. I think you're uniquely skilled and talented in the framework area, which I just quite frankly think not many people are. At its core, I look at how do you use the book to get more leads, more sales, more referrals.
Yeah,
So leads, these are people who hear about your business because of your book,
yeah,
right? Sales, this is more of the people who already know about you, choosing to do business with you. So using as part of your sales funnel, as part of the sales process, and all your conversion metrics go up, right? And then referrals, this is turning customers into active referrers. And then there's all other small subtle ways, like I'm sure you do stuff like this. Well, like in the very beginning of my book, I'll give away the audio book and the video,
yeah,
a video summary for free. So
yeah,
this is just an inherent value add. For me, it's like that lead is worth way more than I would have gotten if they bought my audiobook, right?
yeah,
Same with the video summary. This is one of my best performing webinars that covers the core content in the book. So it turns readers into customers. So there's just a bunch of stuff like that within the book to take people from reader to subscriber and ultimately customer. But then there's using the book to get lead sales and referrals. That's kind of how I think about it.
yeah. If I was to give a hierarchy of what I think is most important to least important in terms of selling a book, to me, the absolute apex, the most important thing is to have a very strong concept and a hook. So having that concept really easily communicated in the title, I think that's probably the most important part. What are your thoughts? What makes a best-selling book?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. A compelling and shareable hook And that shows up in the form of a title. I think that's one of the most important things. And I always think about your title and your cover. People need to instantly understand what the book's about
Yeah.
within 2 seconds, right? And confused people don't buy. So if they don't know what the book's about and whether or not it's for them, they're not buying the book. But then to your point, I mean, I think you need to be a good teacher or good
Mm.
at teaching frameworks, obviously, if it's nonfiction, because the framework is so good, the writing doesn't have to be
Mm.
because the framework's good, right? And so in some ways, the framework or the concept that's supporting the ideas got to be really good. And then you got to be really good at marketing. And then you got to be really good at writing the book. And so, sure, is it a good, compelling hook? And does the book need to be good? Of course. But
Yeah.
you can just have a good book. And if you don't have a good hook, you don't market it, your frameworks, they're not sticky. Cool. Nobody's going to read it. Nobody cares.
Hey, Allan here. Want to dive deeper into today's episode? Head to leanmarketing.com/podcast for links to all the resources we mentioned, plus some exclusive ones just for podcast listeners. You can also subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop and receive my latest marketing and business tips right in your inbox. That's leanmarketing.com/podcast. Now back to the show. The other big test I like is how givable is that book? Because a book is the ultimate givable package. Like if I give a book, a package, something that's going to sit on their shelf for the next 20 years, I'm always thinking about what's a trigger point that someone would give that book. So if it solves a problem and you can easily give that to someone and it feels high value, when someone gives you a book, it's way more valuable than if they sent you a link to a blog post or a video or something like that. So that's another factor I think of, is how givable is this in terms of a trigger that someone would have with something.
I think you're spot on with that. And I think also how shareable is the concept and how kind of your viral coefficient, or is it something you want to do with someone else? And I think similarly, when you're writing framework books for companies, like I think, obviously Traction's a good example of this, scaling
Yeah.
up those type books, because then you increase your viral coefficient, right? Which for those who aren't familiar, viral coefficient is basically your shareability or your virality around a thing. And you want to get as close to one as possible. And if you get north of one, I mean, that's insane, because in every book that you sell is more than one additional book that's being sold through your viral coefficient. So it's just, I mean, it really makes the thing fly. And so that's where I think with like scaling up or something like that, or any book to CEOs or organizations, well, guess what? I buy one copy of that book. And then now all of a sudden, I've probably bought 50 copies,
Yeah.
100 copies of that book from
Yeah.
new employees
Yeah.
over the years, right? And it's like, so then that one copy becomes a bunch more.
So Chandler, what are some of the best ways to monetize? Obviously, there's collecting leads from the book. Like, what have you seen? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the gamut, the whole spectrum of ways to monetize a nonfiction book.
You're right. I mean, so lead, sales, referrals, again, kind of back to those three buckets. Those are the three lenses with which I look. There's number one, it's just like unlimited free leads. I'm amazed at how many people don't want to give away their book for free. Which I get it. You work really hard on this book, but I'm thinking from my perspective, how much would you pay for a lead as a
Mm.
business owner? What if I told you instead you could just give away a book for free?
Yeah.
And it costs you nothing if it's a digital version. It costs you $5 to $10 if it's a physical version. Secondly, is we use them with conferences and speaking gigs. So we built out a speaking team of about, I don't know, 7 to 10 people. And so we're speaking at events all the time. We bring a bunch of physical copies of the book. We give them away for free. We capture a ton of leads, and then we sign up, typically anywhere from $30 to $100,000 per talk in customers. And then just to fully land the plane from your question earlier, the third bucket, which I've already kind of alluded to, is just increasing close rate throughout the
Mm.
process. So we just embed it everywhere in our funnel. And so this is where, if I'm a business owner listening to this, I would just say integrate it everywhere. And so whether it's at the opt-in, maybe you have a training, we'll give away the book for free and as part of a training, but only if they show up and stay to the end,
Yeah.
right? And so now we're incentivizing them not only to register, but to show up and stay to the end. And in the
Yeah.
mind of your prospects or customers, you're differentiated and now they want to do business with you. And so those are kind of the three main buckets where we monetize in the business. That's what works for us.
I love it. What are your thoughts with now ChatGPT, large language models like Claude and things like that? What's the right way to use it? What's the wrong way to use it? How should we be thinking about it?
I think AI is a really awesome and powerful tool. I think it can be really used really well for ideation. It can be used really well for outlines, especially that's really helpful. It can be used really good for editing and making the book better. But I think where people mess themselves up, and I just wouldn't recommend it, is just chat GPT, write a book on this thing, and then,
Yeah.
okay, cool, let's just publish that.
Yeah.
It's not good, it's not authentic, and it's not unique. And
Yeah.
so I think it's use it to make a better book, not just use it for the book on its own. If you want it to truly move the needle in your business, it's probably not what you're looking for, like going fully that route.
The thing a lot of people need to understand is that these tools are super, super powerful mashup tools. They're super powerful information retrieval tools. They're not great at creating something completely novel. So, getting a little bit more, I guess, into the weeds of book structure and things like that, what do you find is ideal? Like a shorter book, a longer book? What are your thoughts about some of the mechanics about how long should a book be? Should we have images versus text and things like that? What are your thoughts?
I think, and I've got this diagram on my book. I don't know if people will be able to see this or not,
Yeah.
but like what you're kind of talking about is what I'd call like a more traditional lead generation nonfiction, which is 10 to 25,000 words.
Yeah.
But your more traditional nonfiction is probably in the 50 to 70,000 words range,
Yeah.
right? That's kind of your typical size book, but it's
Yeah.
long enough, as long as it needs to be, right? Keep the attention span of the reader. So a lot of the other stuff I feel like is just kind of stylistic choices. If you're thinking about writing a book, start. Most people just think about it and they're like, okay, maybe someday, do it. There's never going to be a perfect time to write a book. You got to get started. And there's a framework that I'll kind of end on is it's called the More Writing Method, which More is an acronym. It stands for mind map, outline, rough draft, editing. And so this is kind of one of the core frameworks that we teach. So what I encourage people to do is start with that mind map and take 5, 10 minutes as soon as you're done with this podcast interview and just mind map everything you can around the idea of your book. And I think when you do that, you're going to realize you got a whole lot more to cover than you think. And that's going to really kind of kickstart the creative process.
Love it. Thank you so much. And obviously, you've got a wealth of resources that you can help someone with if they wanted to publish a book. Where does someone find your stuff? Is there something that you'd like to direct people to specifically?
Yeah, totally. I'd say two most helpful resources. One would be my book Published. It's
Hmm.
kind of the guide on what we teach. So if you go to publishedbook.com/audio, I'll give you a free audio book of that book. I figured if you're listening to this podcast, you probably like audio stuff. So check that out. And then secondly, for my company directly, you can go to selfpublishing.com/apply. You can book a call with my team. We'll sit down, talk about your book, totally free. We'll walk through your goals, your challenges, and see if we could help. So those are probably the two best resources.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chandler. You've been a wealth of wisdom. Books have absolutely changed my life. I heard Seth Godin say the book that most changes your life is the book you write. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So it's a great tool. I think of it as the nuclear weapon of business cards. So really powerful. Thank you, Chandler.
Thank you, Allan.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lean Marketing Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by the Lean Marketing Accelerator. Want to take control of your marketing and see real results? With the Accelerator, you get proven strategies, tools, and personalized support to scale your business. Visit leanmarketing.com/accelerator to learn how we can help you get bigger results with less marketing. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who would find it helpful. See you next time.